A quiet beginning, where the kingdom holds its breath. The palace had grown silent long before Ava arrived, a silence that felt heavy, watchful, and full of ghosts she did not yet understand. The corridors whispered with rumors about the king's chosen mate, the girl with a disgraced father and a cursed bloodline. Ava stepped into the kingdom carrying nothing but a hopeful heart and a secret she hadn't shared with anyone yet. She was carrying the Alpha King's child. Lucian, the Alpha King, watched her with unreadable eyes, eyes that had once known love and loss so deeply that no one dared approach him again. Yet something about Ava softened the edges of his hardened heart in ways he didn't expect. The first days were quiet, too quiet. The nobles stared, the servants whispered, and the council waited for her to fail. But then, the gardens woke. The flowers that had withered for years bloomed again after Ava touched the soil. Life returned where death had lingered, and the palace felt something it had forgotten: hope. Lucian noticed, and hope is dangerous in a castle full of secrets. The city begins to change, and so does the king. Ava's presence didn't just revive the gardens, it revived the people. She cleaned the abandoned greenhouse, fed the pups at the orphanage, organized the servants with gentle smiles they weren't used to. And slowly the kingdom began to warm to her. Lucian watched from a distance, always observing, always quietly impressed. Every time she laughed with the children, every time she knelt to help a servant, every time she breathed life into dead spaces, Lucian's heart thawed piece by piece. But as Ava grew closer to the people, jealousy began to stir in the palace walls, especially among the women who once dreamed of being queen. The palace watches her, and not all eyes are kind. It started with whispers. She doesn't belong here. Her father was a monster. The king will never truly love her. Ava pretended not to hear, but she did. Celeste and Celine, two noble daughters, watched her with sharp, jealous eyes. They had competed for Lucian's attention for years, and losing to someone like Ava filled them with venom. But Ava kept her head high, even when her heart trembled. Lucian noticed the whispers, the glares, the tension. And slowly, almost unconsciously, he began walking closer to her, standing beside her, shielding her. The kingdom noticed, and jealousy deepened. A celebration changes everything. Lucian planned a gathering, a feast for the entire pack. Ava thought it was an ordinary dinner. But when she entered the hall, she froze. Hundreds of wolves, lanterns glowing, flowers everywhere, and Lucian waiting at the center. "Tonight," he said proudly, "we honor the woman who has brought life back to our home." The pack stared in shock. No Alpha King had ever honored a mate so openly. Ava felt tears build. And then she said the words that shattered the hall into silence. "I am carrying the future of this kingdom." Lucian froze. Then every wall around him broke. He lifted her, spun her, held her as if afraid she would disappear. Cheers filled the room, but in a dark corner, envy sharpened into something deadly. Where joy awakens danger. A celebration this large does not end quietly. Not when envy watches. Not when secrets simmer. A pair of jealous eyes followed Ava everywhere. A shadow moved closer. Someone whispered, "She cannot give birth to the next heir." A storm was coming, and Ava didn't yet know how close danger truly was. Shadows began to strike. Ava felt watched. Every corridor, every corner, every step. The pack was divided. Some adored her, but others despised her growing influence, especially now that she carried the heir. Elder Varen insulted her lineage in council. Celeste mocked her quietly. Celine whispered threats. Still, Ava stood strong, and Lucien's silent protectiveness grew stronger. He began escorting her himself, standing nearer, sleeping lighter. The kingdom began to realize the king was falling in love, deeply, dangerously, with the girl they wanted to break. Confrontation sharpens the blade. Ava overheard Celeste and Celine whisper, "The higher she climbs, the harder she'll fall." Threats were no longer subtle. Then Celeste confronted Ava directly. "You don't belong here," she hissed. "This palace isn't built for wolves like you." Ava answered calmly, "Then I will rebuild it." Lucian overheard the tail end, and fury ignited behind his eyes. He stepped in, placing a protective hand on Ava's waist. The message was clear. Ava was under his protection. Danger stops whispering and attacks. At the orphanage, Ava spotted a tripwire hidden beneath leaves. A trap, set for her. Before she could react, Celine appeared. "You won't survive this place," she whispered. "You won't survive me." Celine lunged, not fully, but enough to trigger instinct. Ava stumbled right toward the trap, and then a hand caught her waist. Lucian. His roar shook the courtyard. "You tried to harm my mate. You touched what is mine." Only Ava's voice pulled him back from unleashing devastation. Lucian's love had crossed into something primal. The council intervenes, and the truth begins to crack open. Celine was dragged away. Celeste stayed silent, too silent. The council scolded Lucien for acting emotionally, but Ava stood before them and defended herself and the kingdom with a strength no one expected. "For too long," she said, "this kingdom has been governed by fear. That ends now." Even Lucien stared at her in awe. Then a messenger arrived. "There is a situation involving Celeste." A new threat waited inside the palace. Truth, redemption, and a love that cannot be denied. Celeste wasn't angry. She was trembling. She'd discovered a secret hidden in the royal archives. Ava's father wasn't the monster everyone believed. He was framed by someone powerful. Ava's entire life had been built on a lie. When asked for punishment, she surprised everyone. "I won't destroy you," Ava said softly, "but you will serve, learn kindness, earn redemption." Lucian stood proudly behind her. Back in their chambers, Lucian cupped her face. "I didn't stand by you," he whispered. "I fell for you." Ava leaned into him, heart full. "And you," she said, "are my home." The kingdom finally saw the truth. Their future belonged not to the strongest wolf, but to the woman who healed a wounded king and rewrote destiny.